Philosophers have so far only interpreted the word in various ways. The point, however, is to change it. When Karl Marx wrote this sentence in 1845, he could never have expected that the word would be thoroughly changed, and it was all because of his philosophical ideas. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are new to this channel, my name is Frank Zhu, and I'm a college professor teaching sociology, history, and philosophy. I'm also an award-winning landscape photographer. Today's video is again about philosophy. As you already know, today's topic is how Karl Marx was different from other philosophers. By the way, I've made several videos about Karl Marx and his philosophical ideas. If you are interested, please check them out on my channel. Also, I want to tell you that I have enjoyed reading your comments, some of which are very thoughtful and interesting. Please let me know your thoughts after watching today's video. First of all, the influence of Karl Marx is unparalleled. There were many philosophers before him, and there have been many after him. Some of them made remarkable contributions in a particular intellectual area. But none of them has exerted so much influence like Karl Marx on so many areas, such as philosophy, economics, politics, and so on and forth. Indeed, no one has changed the course of human history as much as Karl Marx. His philosophical ideas were used as political slogans in military revolutions in one country after another in the 20th century, first in Russia, then in China, followed by many other countries. Marxism was adopted as a political and ideological foundation for those so-called communist countries, which once covered nearly half of the global population. Even today, after several countries have abandoned Marxism, his impact on our understanding of society and history remains tremendous. His insightful analysis of capitalism is still taught and discussed in academia. His sociological theory is used widely in explaining various social phenomena in both capitalist countries and socialist countries. Marx truly acted upon his belief and changed the world. Even as a young university student, Marx was already determined that the world needed to be changed because he saw it as unfair and full of injustice. Initially, he was studying law, but philosophy was more appealing to him because he thought only philosophy could help him achieve his goal of changing the world. So, despite his father's wish that he become a lawyer, he switched from law to philosophy. As a philosophy student, Marx engaged himself in deep thinking about the corrupt establishment and got himself actively involved in radical student movements. His deep and revolutionary philosophical thinking inspired many other students. The quest for change made Marx a practical philosopher. For him, philosophical problems arise out of real-life conditions which can only be solved by changing those conditions. So, a philosopher's job is not only to come up with a theory, but he must also know what theory is good for what conditions, and he must know how to apply his theory to urgent social issues. To prove his own theories, Marx not only observed carefully the ongoing social movements, but he also did a lot of research. He spent nearly half of his life sitting in the British Museum day in and day out, year in and year out, studying reports on factory conditions, data on industrial production, and all kinds of statistics. Unlike most other philosophers who were obsessed with abstract thinking, Marx was down to earth. He lived most of his life in poverty, and he knew what real life was. He insisted that human beings must first eat, drink, and have clothing before they could pursue politics, art, religion, philosophy, etc. Any discussion of beauty, wisdom, or freedom is meaningless if you don't have a place to call home. According to him, the economy in the society is the foundation for everything else, including political institutions, legal framework, etc. Economic changes are the driving force for social development, from primitive society to ultimately communist society. This idea is the essence of Marxist historical materialism. The decisive power of the economy is also true with individual behavior, according to Marx, which was different from many other philosophers who only believed in the power of the mind. To put it simply, where you stand on social and political issues depends on how rich or poor you are. The poor and the rich view the world in completely different ways. That's why conflicts arise, which Karl Marx called class struggle. Take stealing, for example. When you own nothing and you are starving, would you tell yourself that stealing is a crime and therefore you'd rather die than steal a piece of bread? On the other hand, if you are a property owner and you are afraid of people stealing from you, would you say that stealing is not a crime? Marx said, laws were created by the rich and powerful. So, stealing became a crime only because the rich used the law as a tool to prevent the poor from becoming rich. When the poor realize this, they will rise up in arms to change the system, that is, to have a revolution. Unlike many philosophers who only engaged themselves in producing theories, Marx was also a man of action. Throughout his life, Marx actively took part in revolutionary activities. Right after graduation, Marx worked on many revolutionary newspapers and magazines in Germany. When he was exiled to Paris, Marx took an active role in the revolutionary movement there. He and his friend Engels joined the Communist League, which was an international revolutionary organization. Marx and Engels wrote many articles for the League. As a matter of fact, the famous Communist Manifesto, which was a political pamphlet, was written for the League. The manifesto was a call to the working class people, asking them to rise and revolt to overthrow the old establishment. When Marx was forced to move to London, he did not stop supporting the working class movement in Europe. He was a leading figure in founding and guiding the International Workmen's Association, the so-called First International, which was formed in 1866. Marx was not only a philosopher, he was also a great sociologist, although he never called himself a sociologist, which was a term rarely seen or heard at that time. But his insightful analysis of the relationship between social classes was hugely important in sociology. His most important contribution to sociology was the so-called conflict theory, which is one of the most influential sociological theories. Unlike many other sociologists who emphasized the social consensus, Marx viewed society as full of competition among different groups for limited resources. He emphasized the role of coercion and power in producing and maintaining social order. Social order and stability was not maintained by consensus, as other sociologists claimed, but by domination of one social class over another. The rich have control over political, economic, and social resources with which they dominate the poor. As a result of different access to these resources, conflicts constantly arise between the rich and the poor. That's why his sociological theory is known as conflict theory, which is so different from many other sociological theories. Well, that is all that I wanted to talk about today. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.